Man has the pleasure of your response today. But first of all, you'll raise your matter in 4 minutes.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and thank you, Minister, for your time today. I'd like to raise the issue of what has become known as the baptism barrier and the religion-based discrimination which is currently practised in admission policies in state-funded schools in this country. As Ireland continues to become a more secular and pluralist nation, it is vitally important that the state acknowledges and vindicates the fundamental equality of every child, irrespective of race, socio-economic status and, in this case, religion. The equality cannot fully be realised while we allow state schools to discriminate in their admission policies based on religious denomination, and therefore the baptism barrier needs to go. I know that you, Minister, are aware of this issue and are keen to see reform, and I'd like to acknowledge your announcement earlier this year to end this discriminatory practice. My key ask today is therefore that this issue be dealt with by way of an amendment to the Education Admissions to School Bill, which is currently before Dáil Éireann at 4th stage. As you will be aware, the Oireachtas Education Committee, of which I am a member, recently conducted stakeholder engagement and scrutiny on the bill. Our report was published in June, and one of our recommendations was that it is imperative that the relevant legislation is, at the very least, amended so that no child is denied admissions to a state-funded school on the basis of their religion or beliefs. The relevant legislation being Section 73C of the Equal Status Act 2000. As the bill is currently drafted, this is not provided for. Can the Minister today indicate whether he is considering amending the bill to reflect the committee recommendation? I would also like the clarification in relation to the 3 limited circumstances cited by the Minister as to when a school can use religion as a criteria for admission. The Minister stated that these circumstances were in order to protect minority faith schools, and we would need to see the detail so that we can ensure there are no unintended consequences. It does not make sense to me that we would pass a major admission policy reform bill through the Oireachtas when it does not comprehensively address what I believe is the most fundamental equality issue in national school admission today. I know that the Minister has previously stated that this issue could perhaps be dealt with in a separate piece of legislation. However, I do believe that this approach should be reconsidered. The creation of a new bespoke piece of legislation could take years, whereas the 2016 admissions bill could become law by Christmas. I also understand that there is a concern that constitutional issues could be at play, but Equate Ireland did commission legal advice in this respect, and if you have not seen this, I would be happy to share this with you, Minister. Ultimately, the baptism barrier has no place in a modern and pluralist education system. 84% of Irish people in a recent poll called for the end of religion-based school exclusion. We have a responsibility to move quickly and decisively to end it. Let's commit to ending discrimination before the next academic year. Thank you, Minister.
I'd like to thank Senator Lynn Ruane for raising this issue. It does give me a chance to update the position. The Senator is right that originally the admissions bill, which I introduced to the House, dealt with a number of issues around which there was a fair degree of consensus. And I think there was a desire, which clearly remains important, that we will get those positive changes in place quickly. They do deal with banning discrimination, banning waiting lists, and requiring written admissions policies, empowering the NCSE to require a school to take a child with special needs. Same with TUSLA. So there were positive things there. I think there was a broad belief that we also need to address the issue of admissions policy in relation to the use of religion in schools. And what I did at that stage was, while proceeding with the bill, I set up a consultation process and outlined four different options, and that consultation process took place earlier this year, ending around the end of March. Now, there were a lot of submissions. There wasn't consensus, and there was no one approach, if you like, of those outlined that had consensus approach. What I sought to do in the intervening period, and I indicated this to the committee stage debate in the Dáil, that I believed that the way to deal with this was to remove religion as a general criterion in admission policies, but, as you say, to provide 3 exceptions, and the exceptions were outlined at the time. They largely got to do with allowing a school protect its ethos if that were threatened, and to allow children of minority religions get to their school, get into a school of their choice. I mean, this is based on the idea that it is really right and welcome that people should have the desire to bring up children in their own faith if they want to, and that where there are, as we do endow in the Constitution, the right of religions to run schools, that we should try to facilitate that to the best extent possible. But what I've always recognised is that it's not right that children can't get access to a local school, and that they are given preferences given to a child from a considerable distance away on religious grounds when that child is not there, or where it's wrong also that people should feel the obligation to be baptised to get admission to their school. So the position is that that approach that I outlined, I have since been dealing with the Attorney General to develop those proposals and to ensure that I am in a position to come to the House with legally robust and constitutionally robust proposals. As you know, there can be a lot of legal opinions, but ultimately government has to be guided by the Attorney General. The Attorney General is the legal advisor to the government. So that work is ongoing. It is my belief that at this stage that it may now well be possible to introduce it as an amendment to the existing admissions bill rather than requiring a separate bill. Obviously, I don't want to make a commitment that's irrevocable, because clearly this depends on the proposal we've made being found to be robust. But I'm working with the Attorney General, and I will come back to the Houses as soon as I am in a position to do so. I think it is timely that we deal with this issue. If we go the route that I've set out, effectively, religion would not be used in 95% of the schools that are in place. As you know, 80% of the schools do not now use religion, and that will become law under the admissions bill. It will no longer be legal, where a school is not oversubscribed, to exclude a child on basis of religion. That will be outlawed. And what we're now doing is, for the remaining 20%, to make a provision that religion would not be used as a bar, unless for those 2 exceptions, to protect minority churches and to ensure that the ethos of the school wouldn't be threatened, which is already there in the equal status legislation. So I hope that I am in a position to come back to the House, and indeed to the Upper House, in due course with a set of proposals.
Thank you, Minister. A very optimistic response, Senator.
Yeah, I welcome the response, and thanks very much for that. And maybe before the legislation actually comes into the Seanad, that if we could, I suppose, meet beforehand, or have some indication beforehand, so that I'm not wasting my time on my end coming up with amendments. If you're already, obviously, with the advice of the Attorney General and with the consultation process, have been working on that. So I would just welcome an update before it comes to the Seanad. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ruane. Thank you, Minister.
Yeah, legally, my understanding is that obviously I have to go back to report stage to the committee in the Dáil, but I will publish our proposals at that stage and give the Senator an opportunity to examine them before they come here formally to the House.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And Céad Rodella,